All right, welcome. Thank you for joining me again. It's been a while. I think the last one I put out here was, I don't know, March, April kind of time frame. So thank you for joining me again. I'm here in San Diego still. This is Mira Mesa, in my backyard here now. It's a really nice day, as usual, in San Diego. Hope everything is going well for you guys. So I just wanted to update you on what's happening. So we've had a lot of stuff going on, especially the last few years. And if you've been watching my videos since the spring of 2012, I've been kind of bringing up this one major theme in this kind of societal shift that's going on. And this is represented by Pluto squaring Uranus. So Pluto's in Capricorn, squaring Uranus in Aries. And this is a period covering from the spring of 2012 right on through the spring of 2015. And here we are, basically approaching late summer, early fall 2014. So we're almost coming up on the last, say, 9 months or so of this 3-year period, which is kind of exciting. And so I wanted to kind of update where we are on that path and kind of all the little pieces inside of that have been going on. So, and especially if you see my most recent video talking about that whole retrograde train and coming out of that and how that all fits with what I'm going to talk about here. So anyway, today is August 24th, I believe, 2014. It's Sunday. So just to kind of orient you a little bit. And we are about halfway in between. We're in a 2-month period from late July to about late September where we have none of the personal planets going retrograde. When the personal planets, Mercury, Venus, and Mars go retrograde, if you've seen my other videos, it's time of reorganizing, redoing, rethinking, reacting, etc. So we went through this really long period from the fall of 2013, about October 2013, right on through here in July 2014, where that was a huge theme. Okay, and the big part of that was to reorient ourselves relative to others. Okay, because if you look at that in the wider frame of things, it makes more sense. So going back to that, the widest frame we can talk about right now, the Pluto, Capricorn, Uranus, Aries, and square. These planets were connected, they were conjunct in Virgo back in the late 1960s. Okay, that represented the seeding period of this societal change. And we are now in this sort of time to make decisions period in that realm. So whatever was started in the mid to late 1960s with regard to societal change, this period from spring of 2012 to spring of 2015, we're actually making decisions, in who we elect and what we choose to do for ourselves and for our society that will take what was birthed there and lead it into one direction or another. Okay, so we'll be kind of leaving some things behind that were potentials and going with whatever potentials we decided to go with. And that will take us right on through the next several decades. Okay, but within that period, I also want to talk about, if we go back to 2010, and I want to go back to 2010 because right now we're about to enter this period where Jupiter in Leo, Jupiter just entered Leo here this summer, and it's only in each sign for about once every 12 years. So it hasn't been in Leo since about 2003 or so. And when Jupiter's in Leo, this is a planet of expansion. We're expanding our creativity, our expression, everything else. And so it's an exciting kind of energy for that. And what Jupiter's going to be doing in Leo is forming a trine to Uranus and Aries. So Uranus and Aries is part of that Pluto-Uranus square I just mentioned. And so Jupiter trining Uranus and Aries is 2 fire signs, 2 planets that are just about progressing creativity. Okay, and so this is, with Uranus and Aries, it's about the individuality, so that the true authentic individuality in every individual coming out, and the Jupiter and Leo part of it is expansion of the creativity. Okay, so when you put those together in a trine, which is this real nice flowing energy, it's almost like this eminent dance of our expanded self in society in a way. Okay, and so that's kind of the period we're entering here, and that'll be like October of 2014, right on through about May or June of 2015. And it's interesting that that's going to kind of cap the end period of that 3-year period I talked about with Pluto squaring Uranus. Pluto squaring Uranus, again, spring 2012 to spring 2015. Here we are with Jupiter trining Uranus, fall 2014 to about spring of 2015. So spring of 2015, leading up into the summer of 2015, is kind of it really marks the ending of this kind of longer period of energy. And this Jupiter-Uranus energy, this Jupiter, again, in Leo, trining Uranus in Aries, we can take this back to its beginning when Jupiter was conjunct Uranus in Aries. Okay, it was actually conjunct Uranus in late Pisces, early Aries, and this was back in 2010. That's when I brought that up earlier. So most of mid to late 2010, Jupiter and Uranus were together in Aries. This was like this new birth on an individual level. It's almost as if this was people as individuals coming out of themselves, coming out of their shells in a way. And we were birthing this whole authentic sense of being in this world. And so it's kind of us expanding ourselves in society, in the world as it is, so amongst other people. And when it came in 2010, it was kind of this pulse. And so whatever we were starting in 2010 based on what we wanted from our hearts, we're kind of in this phase right now where that's going to start coming together. Because society, again, as you mentioned with Pluto-Uranus square, going back to mid to late 1960s when they were conjunct, we're in that period of changing or making decisions for that period. So society is basically in this open window period of change, and it's adjusting. And it's adjusting in a way that's going to help support individuals as they are. And so this has been building for a few decades, and the birthing of the self has been building for several years. And so it's like they're simultaneously occurring where society is starting to open up to be able to support the individuals that are now blossoming. Okay, and so with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, 2010, so think back to 2010, whatever we were starting there on an individual level, it's as if the period from the fall of 2013 to just here in the summer of 2014 when we had this whole retrograde trine, and we were kind of really fixing how we operate amongst other people. Kind of, if we're birthing as new individuals, and we've always operated amongst others, in other words, in relationship to others in a certain way, but we're birthing into a new way, then we have to readjust how we operate amongst others or how we relate to others. So this whole period from late 2013 to mid 2014 has been a period of readjusting how we relate. So we're basically saying, here's who I am. I can't be in a relationship to something or someone that is outside of who that is or what that is. And so that's kind of where what this whole last year has been about in a lot of ways. And coinciding with that was Jupiter squaring Uranus. So again, Jupiter conjunct Uranus in 2010, and it squared Uranus at the same time of the retrograde trine, late 2013 into early to mid 2014. And so this was a decision-making period of who we are. And so it had a lot to do with kind of reshuffling that deck and saying, okay, here I am, and being tested in old ways. So people have been testing us for the last year or so. We've been tested to react in a different way or to respond in a different way so that we're more authentic and we're not just reacting and saying, okay, here's who I am, but I can't be that if I'm going to do this. In other words, I can't really be who I am. I have to be a wife or a mother. I can't really be that. Or I have my job I have to do, so I can't be who I am. We're kind of in this space in this last year where we've realized that we have to be who we are. In 2010, we birthed who we are. And late 2013, 2014, we're saying we have to be that. And I will not adjust myself to fit to you, but I will adjust how I respond to you so that we can both fit. And that's a big difference in approach. And that's what we've all learned how to do in the last year. And so now with this kind of cleared up, and here we are again in this kind of 2-month period where we're kind of free and clear and things are moving, we're really being kind of offered a chance to dabble in different possibilities for what we're going to do next. It's like society is starting to open up to support us, all while we're ready to go as we are. And when we get to the fall of 2014, coming up here, October especially, is going to be a real shift point. And that's going to take us right on through the spring of 2015. We're really going to be kind of accelerating into society as we are in ways that 5 years prior we could have never done. Do you see? And so there's a big rapid shift that's happening. It's all because we've done all this work to help ourselves interact with others without denying the total self. So it's like, instead of compromise, there's a difference between compromise and actually just kind of adjusting to fit everybody. And the point is there's room for everybody, and we're learning how to make room for everybody rather than cutting ourselves short to make room for someone. And that's a big, big difference. And that's where we're at now. And so it's almost like we're all ready to go. We're not quite sure where we're going yet. And that's where we're at right now. We're in this kind of, I could do that, I could do this, I could be like this, I could live here, I don't know. And so we're all a little bit But it's exciting. It's an exciting kind of time, and we're kind of waiting for the tower to call us in and say we're ready for a landing. But we're kind of circling the airport a little bit, going, I'm not sure which airport I want to land at. I don't really know. But it seems like there's a lot of possibilities, and a lot of things could be opening up right now. And that's the point. We want to be there right now. And it's kind of rapid, and it feels good because the last year, up until July or so, it's been kind of slow. And every time we thought we were going to do something, we got blocked. And we weren't really getting blocked. We weren't victims of that. We were creating those blocks to teach ourselves and show ourselves how to overcome them in a lot of ways, and how to deal with them, and how to integrate them. And not discard them and call that bad and this good, but to just integrate it all, integrate the dark and the light, to kind of keep that flow going, because it's within that flow that you can actually tap the power. And so we've been learning how to be self-empowered in a lot of ways. And we're just kind of waiting for our call to land, and when we get it, we will. And the way it's setting up here is when we get to October 2014, it's going to be big. Like I said, it's going to start the period that will end around the spring of 2015. It's going to be a pulse that will kind of ripple out for about 6 or 7 months. And by the time we get to the summer of 2015, it's almost like society is now open and ready, and we are totally developed and ready to be in it as we are. But it's kind of like, what are we doing still? We still don't know. And we're going to know real soon. And that's what I mean. October's going to open this up. October is, we have 2 eclipses coming up in October. Also, the start of that Jupiter trining Uranus. Like I said, Jupiter and Leo, trining Uranus. So Jupiter and Leo, again, expanded creativity, trining this sense of authentic individuality. And it's a flowing aspect, so it really wants to happen. And what we're going to have in October with these 2 eclipses and a Mercury retrograde, by the way. Mercury will be retrograde in late Libra into early Scorpio, okay? But in addition to that, we'll have Mars and Sagittarius, the other fire sign. There's 3 fire signs: Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So we'll have Uranus in Aries, Jupiter in Leo, and Mars in Sagittarius. So mid-October, we're going to have a grand trine, going to form like a triangle in the sky between Mars, Jupiter, and Uranus in fire signs. And if you know anything about those energies and anything about the element of fire, this is an ignition point for all intents and purposes. Mars is the planet of fire in a sign of fire, and it's a trigger in a lot of ways. It's almost like something happens in October that just opens a door and says, here's what you're on the earth to do, and here's the offer to do it. And it'll happen in weird, kind of unexpected ways. Because we might picture what we think we want to do, and who we want to work with, and how we want that to look. And life isn't going to necessarily present it in that way. But in retrospect, say a couple of years from now, when we look back, we realize, wow, that was perfect. And it'll only be that kind of, large-scale, big-picture perspective that's going to help us to see that. Because when we get into, I think it's a fall of 2017, so a good 3 years from now, when Jupiter opposes Uranus, that's going to be the kind of culmination of everything that was birthed on an individual level in the year 2010, when Jupiter and Uranus were conjunct in Aries. So that birth of self in around 2010, the opening of society from 2012 to 2015 to allow it, and now this, within that period, we have this testing period, 2013 to 2014, to balance ourselves to work with others in a different way that allows more authenticity. And then this fall of 2014 to spring 2015 period that has a lot to do with just kind of taking steps toward our direction and who we're going to be. And I think October is going to really open up that playing field. The first eclipse we'll see in October will be it's a lunar eclipse in Aries, right on that Uranus in Aries. Okay, so while Uranus in Aries is still in that square to Pluto, and while that Uranus in Aries is in that trine to Jupiter, and also in October it'll be in a trine to Mars, like we said. So Uranus is very active, and we're going to have the lunar eclipse landing right on that point, which is the culmination of self in a lot of ways. So like I said, what was birthed in 2010 is going to kind of come together over this period. By the time we get to 2017, it'll be fully in place. But it's this period from fall of 2014 to spring of 2015 that's really developing it in a rapid kind of sense. It's just coming together. That's the key word there is everything's coming together. It's funneling in a real kind of easy fashion. The second eclipse that we'll see in late October will be it's a solar eclipse right at the 0 point of Scorpio. And it's going to be joined by Venus so it'd be the Sun, Venus, all in Scorpio, right at the very edge, and that's right where this Mercury retrograde is going to be happening, right at that end of Libra, beginning of Scorpio zone. So we're going to be kind of reviewing our lives in a lot of ways when it comes to how we merge with other people, because Libra is relationship, Scorpio is kind of intimate connection and depth. So how much we're willing to merge with others, where our boundary is drawn with others. So we've had all this great practice and training the last year or so we're ready to set those boundaries, and that's what this is going to be. October is going to be a dance of like, okay, how far do I want to take it? I know who I am. I'm ready to go. I've got to work with other people. I'm not, no man's an island, no woman's an island either. And I've got to be with others in order for me to fully be. It's that kind of, irony of the whole thing, is that in order for us to fully be, we have to be in, collective form. So we're just going to learn. We're going to play with that boundary and figure out where we want to put it. And by the end of October, we should have a sense of where that is. And this solar eclipse is just the launching pad for that. And it's basically saying, oh, from here on out, this is what it is. This is what it is. This is where we now draw our boundary. When before we may have had, varying boundaries, and that may have been our problem, is not knowing how much of ourselves to invest in something or with someone, because of a sense that we could get screwed over or whatnot. So anyway, but this is the thing, is we're gonna have to decide fast, because I feel like things are gonna be coming in really fast. Right now, again, we're in this period of like, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this. If you're familiar with tarot, it reminds me of the Seven of Cups card. That's kind of the energy we're in now, where like anything's possible, and it's kind of true. It really is. It's that possibility wave is just here, and October is going to kind of collapse that possibility into some points. A lot like quantum physics and how that works. And we're gonna find points quickly and say yes. Whatever we say yes to, it's going to accelerate like on one of those high-speed rails, right on through into the spring. And again, we're gonna be just involved in who we are for the world very quickly, in ways that we didn't expect. That's all I can say. So anyway, it's a really exciting time. I just wanted to kind of update you on where you are. If you're feeling like anything's possible right now, well, that makes sense. And I just want you to know that the hard part, the real work on ourselves is over. We've done that. We've done it. We're past it. We're ready to experience ourselves. Sometimes the experience of the self is scarier than the excuse to not have to experience the self, which is what we've been in the last few years. Because society is starting to open up. And you might ask, why is society starting to open up, or in what ways? That's pretty generic and vague. I think, especially from a global financial perspective, things are changing. And when you consider how powerful debt is and how it controls everything, in between countries or as individuals in our country, in the U.S., I think those structures are what's a big part of what's changing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with BRICS, B-R-I-C-S. BRICS is this sort of new financial conglomerate, and it represents about, the nations that it represents is about 40% of the world population. And when you consider that the U.S. has been kind of the kings of the money in the world, and we're only about 5% of the population, well, we've got about 8 times more of us represented by this BRICS, which is a kind of a united front, almost like a World Bank, like a new kind of World Bank. And the processes and the policies are going to be different in this. And this includes countries like, like China, India. There's some huge populations right there. South Africa, and I can't think of the rest of them off the top. I think Brazil and Russia, that's what it is. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. There's BRICS, B-R-I-C-S. So that's the new organization. So that's just an example. But the point is, society is starting to shift, to open up, to allow individuality to exist. No more collectivism. Collectivism is, when you see communism and or fascism, Nazism, all that kind of stuff is collectivism. That's when you're stripping away the individual for the collective. And we're now in this period of shifting that so that we have a society that supports the individual within a collective. And that's very different. It's interdependence versus codependence. And I'll have plenty more on that in several more talks I'll be giving, and I will update you on when that is. But for now, let's keep it at that. Keep things up in the air right now, but just note that we're just about a month and a half to, away here. Today's August 24th again. By the time we get to mid to late October, we're going to know which way to go. We're going to start seeing the people and the opportunities come our way. And don't look a gift horse in the mouth. That would be my advice. Just if it feels right, go for it. If it doesn't feel right, absolutely don't go for it. But if it feels right, don't look at it and judge it and say, I don't know if that's right. I don't know if that's the place. I don't know if that's the person. Just go with it. And it will lead you to the right place, to the right person, if you just take that first step. So anyway, we'll leave it at that. And again, I apologize for the lack of editing, but we'll see you next time. Thanks.